make no mistake, this conversation is for women of all ages. When I was stepping into womanhood, I didn't have any guidance on the type of woman that I wanted to be. These girlish tendencies, this girlish mindset, the way of interacting, or even just the way that I view myself or that I show up in certain spaces. So a lot of women are focused so hard on figuring out another woman and what makes her her instead of figuring themselves out. So you're gonna spend your whole life trying to figure out how everybody else is doing stuff instead of figuring out what you want to do. That is literally the definition of society tricking you out of your spot. All of this trying to be an it girl, chasing a trend. Understand that womanhood is something that you are worthy of. It girl, that girl, hot girl, girlhood, girl dinner, girl math. The girlification of women in society is getting out of hand, and it is time to step into womanhood. Not only is it disheartening that a lot of women are choosing not to go into womanhood and bypass a critical stage of growth, development, and self-actualization, it is becoming very detrimental to our society. So let's just go ahead and get it out of the way. I'm your girl, you my girl, we your girl. Don't you know that we love you? It is okay to be girls at heart, to say, yeah, girl, that's my girl, or I was with my girls, or I'm the kind of girl. That's fine. And I know somebody's going to say, oh, it's just a trend. It's just something to laugh about. It's not that serious, but it is indeed that serious. And it actually is an attack. There is a war on womanhood, and you very well might be one of its greatest soldiers. Okay. So we can refer to each other as a girl, but when you internalize the mindset of not growing up, when you say who's the adult in the room, when you forego the stepping into womanhood and what that can do to transform your life, thus transforming the world, that's where the issue in and of itself lies. So today we are going to talk about how you can step into womanhood, the problem that occurs when you don't step into your womanhood, and how we can start to transform ourselves to align with the type of woman that we are meant to be. So if you are interested in this topic, then you are in the right place. To all of my subbies, welcome back. And if you're new here, welcome. My name is Kiya, and over here we smell good and elevate. We talk about fragrance, fashion, lifestyle, and all things involving womanhood and stepping into womanhood as the woman that you know that you're supposed to be. And in addition to our fragrance videos, we have a signature woman series that is running on this channel. And what a signature woman is a woman that shows up embodied. She's empowered. She has a signature style, a signature look, but overall she has an essence that speaks for itself, because it is a translation of her values and how she carries herself. Thus, it translates into how she is felt by those around her. So if you are interested in empowering womanhood conversations and videos like this, definitely go ahead and subscribe so you do not miss another video. We are a channel full of fragrance lovers over here, and so I'm going to give y'all my fragrance combination. So from Brown Sugar Babe, I have Woody Spice. This is a beautiful woody sweet oil that serves as a nice neutral base for any fragrance layering combination. And then I went in on top with Mon Guerlain from the House of Guerlain. This is one of those OG vanilla lavender combinations. If y'all know me, y'all know I love the vanilla lavender combo, but it has a slight freshness, some patchouli, giving it a sensual vibe with a burst of bergamot as well. I absolutely love it. So yes, this is your second opportunity to go ahead and get out of here, because I might need to put out a trigger warning and let y'all know that this is going to get deep. Next week we're going to be doing 5 fragrances that have been fresh for the summertime. We do both. We do it all on this channel, but this is not going to be that type of video. So I'm letting you know, if you want to go, then go ahead and leave. So this video is going to be a continuation of our signature woman series, and that is because there is a difference between being grown and being a woman. This is a conversation that I introduced maybe 3-4 years ago on TikTok. I grew a whole following of 10,000 followers until until I got off my TikTok. So I've been talking about how to step into womanhood. I wrote a whole ebook about it, and I'll get into that story because it helped a lot of women. So this topic is kind of resurfacing, which I am happy about, but I have been talking about this for years. This is a philosophy that has governed my life. It is a personal realization that I had, and I actualized it with action steps in my own life about stepping into womanhood because I saw the importance of what it was for me personally, first and foremost. So I just want to say that. So when we think about being grown, a lot of us have been grown since the time we was like 16, 17, 18 years old, right? Being grown means that everything is available and I get to do it. I'm grown. I get to go to the club. I'm grown. I pay bills. I'm grown. I, get up and go to work and everything like that. But being a womanhood, defining the type of woman that you want to be, stepping into that stage is actually a difference, and it's a choice. Now, where it's a little bit mishandled in our society by design on purpose, and I'm going to get into that, is that nobody actually sits us down anymore and says, hey, Kiya, who are you? Who do you want to be? I see that you have these skills, these talents. Of what type of woman do you want to be? What kind of essence do you want to have? How do you want to be felt? No one is coaching us into womanhood. There are no really clear rites of passage in, our culture. I'm from America, and I'm going to say in American culture, some people will come and say, oh, well, there's cotillions, there's this, there's that. You've been in a cotillion, you've done this and done that, and you still don't feel like a woman. That's no shade or no shame, but what I'm saying is a lot of women are disconnected from their womanhood, and they feel very girlish. They feel very childish. People have told me I feel like I'm an adult girl because my family still refers to me as a girl, or they treat me like a child, like I don't have my own thought process, or I always find myself in situations where I feel like I don't have a voice, or I'm deferring to the next person with authority in the room. That's because you haven't owned or stepped into your womanhood, but the reason is because no one shows us how to do that anymore. So it's quite literally something that you have to take by the reins, a choice that you have to make to step into womanhood for yourself. Make no mistake, this conversation is for women of all ages. You could be 25, 30, 43, 44. You could be 50, 60 years old and feel like I never fully stepped into my womanhood. I still have like these girlish tendencies, this girlish mindset, the way of interacting, or even just the way that I view myself or that I show up in certain spaces. So that's why this conversation is very important, because it creates a great disconnect. It creates a big, distrust for oneself and misalignment when you live your life as a perpetual girl instead of owning the type of woman who you want to be, defining it, stepping into that. So we're going to get into how you can define your womanhood, how you can step into your womanhood, and some tips that you can apply to help you to start showing up as the type of woman that you want to be. The good thing about this video is I've been building up to this, y'all. Okay, so that's why I created the Signature Woman series, because if you're just now being introduced to my channel, or if you're just now seeing this, or if you've been following along, you can go back and kind of like rewatch the videos and put all the pieces and the steps together to see what it actually means to be in the embodiment of womanhood, because it's something that you embody. So the first step into stepping into womanhood is deciding. You have to decide that this is what you want to do. And I know that can sound so basic, but this is the decision point, the disconnect of what a lot of women have. They never decided that they want to be a woman, that they're going to endeavor to do it. And the reason why I'm saying this is because once you really start getting into it, you will realize it's almost like hitting a second phase of puberty. And a lot of y'all have probably tried to step into womanhood and then backed out of it because you realize like, I feel like it's too late. I feel a little bit silly trying to redefine myself, refigure myself out, realign, my values and say who I am. And I've portrayed myself as this person for all of these years, and now I want to do this. So then you back away from it. But let's just start off by making the decision, giving ourselves permission. One thing about a woman is she doesn't need permission, but we're getting into it. We're getting to that point. Like, you don't need permission to step into your womanhood. And once you are in your womanhood, you dispel that whole I need to ask, I need to permission, I need to, check in type of situation. So the first step is to decide that you want to own your womanhood. And once you decide, the next step is to define the type of woman that you want to be, and how you do that is based off of your own values. What I'm doing right now is walking y'all through my 5-step framework in my ebook, The Adult Girl Diaries. The steps are decide, define, practice, align, and affirm. So what you have to do is go through these steps, and it's all based on your own set of values. We are not all the same. We do not all want to be the same. And the reason why I wrote this ebook is for my future daughter, okay? Because when I was stepping into womanhood, I didn't have any guidance on the type of woman that I wanted to be. Exactly what I'm describing. I said I will not have it when it comes to my child. She's not going to go into her womanhood floundering and confused and trying to figure it out. She's going to go into it gracefully. Okay, so that is why I wrote the ebook. That's why I'm very passionate about this, because the reason why you're not where you want to be in life, the reason why you don't feel the way you want to feel, you haven't got the promotion, you haven't started the business, you haven't, taken on the identity that you want to, is because you haven't stepped into your womanhood. Your self-identity, the comparison, the negative thinking, y'all be having random bouts of depression and stuff. I'm telling you, it's tied to not knowing what your essence is and who you are, and that is tied into the type of woman that you are, and stepping into it in the way that you define that is based off of your values. This is where it gets tricky in society. This is why I say there is a war on womanhood, because once you start deciding who you are, once you start defining who you are, saying what your values are, and showing up in that, what I always say is a signature woman, she shows up with her values intact. She is a result of priority and practice. Once you define your values and you start showing up and practicing and showing that this is who I am and I am who I say I am, that's when it starts to get dangerous in society. That's why all of these trends of being a girl are so prominent and so popular and so acceptable, because girls are malleable. Girls are still testing. Girls are still trying. Girls haven't really defined who they are yet. They're very impressionable. They can be deceived. That is a result of that patriarchy that y'all always want to talk about. We so smart to talk about, oh, the patriarchy this, the patriarchy that, but then turn around in girlhood and turn around in girl math and turn around, and yes, sometimes the stereotypes are funny and we can relate to them, but a lot of y'all internalize them, and I've seen that in real time. And that's the part where you have to start to think there is a war on womanhood. They want you to be a girl. And trigger warning, I'm not going to go deep into it on this video, but the girlification of women in our society is a result of pedophilia. Okay, that's nasty. It's inappropriate to constantly force women in the box of being a girl and then just try to normalize it, and it's all for the sake of being able to take advantage, and women are falling for it. Really, when you think about being grown, it's really just an extension of society's own values that are projected onto us. It has nothing to do with who you are at the core, who you've decided that you want to be. Being grown is everything is available to me, so I'm going to do it. Being a woman is deciding what you are and are not available for. And that's when you start to get momentum. That's when you start to carry weight. That's when you start to have power, because your yeses are your yeses and your nos are your nos. And that is what society is missing. That's what you're missing for your psyche, for your psychological advancement. Like I said, if you perpetually mentally look at yourself as a girl and you refuse to step into womanhood because you don't want to feel like you're put out to pasture, because you don't want to feel like your time is up, because you're afraid of somebody looking at you in the store and addressing you as ma'am because that means you're old or something like that, that is very detrimental. That is very childish thinking, and you have fallen to the trick of society. That is literally the definition of society, tricking you out of your spot. All of this trying to be a it girl, chasing a trend, keeping yourself on a hamster wheel of deciding, and schizophrenic in split in your personality and your identity. All of that is on purpose, and all of that is by design, and it doesn't benefit you. It benefits the greater society that is looking to extract from you, that is trying to get you to keep your eyes off focusing on yourself. Like I always say, a signature woman keeps her eyes on her own paper. In school, that's where that saying comes from. You taking a test and you trying to look and see who's doing what. If you're constantly comparing yourself to other people, people say they suffer from or struggle with comparison. You got to define your values, define who you are, step into your womanhood, because a woman can keep her eyes on her own paper. Comparison is the result of girlish thinking, and it's actually very mediocre. Why? Because a lot of times y'all are making incomplete comparisons because you don't have the data and you don't have the backstory. Wisdom is understanding that you don't know everything that's going on in the inputs of what makes another person somebody. So then that makes comparison null and void in and of itself. But this is what you come into. This is what you start to realize when you define your womanhood and when you step into it. A lot of women are focused so hard on figuring out another woman and what makes her her instead of figuring themselves out. So you're going to spend your whole life trying to figure out how everybody else is doing stuff instead of figuring out what you want to do. That's a rookie mistake, because 9 times out of 10, you ain't gonna never figure it out. That's the trick. Focusing on you is what your life's purpose and your life's work is. It's not to figure out who the next person is. Y'all are also too hard on yourselves. Y'all need to forgive yourselves for what y'all don't know. Y'all need to understand that womanhood is something that you are worthy of. Okay, it's not for another person or this person. It is for you. It is your birthright. You're gonna forego your birthright of stepping into womanhood. That is power. That is authority. That is peace. That is divinity. Okay, this is why I say this is a actually very serious topic, y'all. Checking off boxes, following the script, following the status quo that's fed to you, being a people pleaser, being apologetic, asking for permission. All of that is girlification. Personally, once I figure out somebody's trying to play me or play in my face, I'm the type of person, I'm gonna go crazy. I'm gonna break out. I'm gonna break free. I'm gonna let you know you think you thought, but it ain't what you thought it was gonna turn out to be. That is how I felt when I came into the idea of, oh, they really think they're slick, trying to pull a fast one on us, trying to keep us being girls. And people have a problem with women showing up as women. You know the difference. I know the difference. And I know y'all know the difference, because when I'm encountered and I show up being a woman, a lot of people are intimidated. People who are not comfortable with themselves and who they are, and especially women who haven't stepped into their womanhood, they don't like seeing a woman with direction, a woman with authority, a woman with integrity, meaning that I do what I say I'm going to do, and if you try to get in my way, I'm going to stop you from getting in my way. I'm not available for any person, a man, a woman, to try to thwart me or get me off of my path. I'm not available for that. And a lot of people don't like that, so then they result to like girlish behavior of like, she's making me uncomfortable. I don't like this. Let's try to take her down. You ain't gonna take me down, baby. It doesn't work, because I'm not available for that. Because also, because I'm focused on myself, I can see the deterrence coming from a mile away. This is what womanhood is about, and that's why I say there is a war on womanhood. So I'm not trying to give you this fanciful perspective of just thinking step into womanhood and everything's going to improve, everything's going to be great. You are going to come into power and authority, come into your own, come into that sense of self that you've been chasing after. It's tied to your values, defining the type of woman that you want to be, showing up as that day after day, and having the integrity of showing that yourself, that you are who you say you are first and foremost. But everybody's not going to be celebrating it. But that's why we as women all need to come together and decide, no, this is what it is. We are going to be in our womanhood, and we're going to flip the script and change the status quo up in here, because being a woman and being a girl holds two totally different essences. Okay, a lot of women are crippled by the fear of being seen like they're changing something, because a lot of people let them shame, people shame you into a box. I know that that has happened to me countless times. It's like, oh, well, you used to be like this, or you used to think like this, and now I don't. That's on being a grown woman. It's knowing who you are, but also leaving room for exploration. And I think that's part of the fear people have in stepping into womanhood. You think you have to let go of this fanciful side of yourself. No, it doesn't go away. It just transforms. But you cannot be afraid of your own shadow. When you are afraid to step into womanhood, be a woman, and you want to constantly define yourself in the frame of a girl, downplay yourself, be small, we teach girls to shrink themselves, and you want to do this whole girlhood, girl math situation, acting like you're incapable, that is you prophesizing the smallness, the box, the inadequacy over your own life. So then don't turn around and be mad at the woman who decides to stand in her power, who decides to own her womanhood, who decides to show up as who she's meant to be, just because you're deciding that you want to forego that. And this is why I created my brand, The October Song. It is about change and transformation. October represents change and transformation. Song is about telling your story. Don't let nobody shame you and put you back into the darkness that you came out of. Sing your song, tell your story, change, transform. That's on living a life. That's on being a woman. As y'all can see, I have my Quiet Looks candle burning beautifully in the background. And this is a candle from my luxury high note candle collection, so please feel free to shop my high note candle collection. Quiet Lux is a beautiful blend of lavender, and it just gives you that cozy vibe of the fresh smell of linen, fresh washed sheets, a Sunday reset type of feel, and it really makes you feel like you have your life together. So definitely go ahead and check out The October Song and shop this candle for your scent pleasures. Y'all have heard me repeat this and say, because first and foremost, this is the generational curse, right? Of not knowing who you are and passing down this disorientation of not knowing who you are and who you're meant to be and how to connect the dots and get there. I said I will not be passing that on to my child. And the thing about it is, I remember when I was leaving St. Bart's. I was vacationing in San Martin, honey, and I was leaving St. Bart's. You have to take a ferry, and there was a group of teenage girls. They seemed like they were all on vacation with their auntie or something like that, because it was one lady and she was with 4 young girls. And so there was a roof on the ferry, so she took one of the girls up to the roof, and then 3 of them were still sitting there, and I'm sitting there with my friend. So there was a man who was on the boat, and we're all just sitting there, and all of a sudden we just start hearing these crazy noises and sounds and stuff like that. And the girls, they look over and they're looking crazy, and they kind of start giggling. And then I look at my friend and I'm listening. I'm like, is he playing porn on his phone? And so he in fact was. So I'm sitting here, me and my friend, the girls are in between, and he's on the other side of where the girls are. Listen, when I tell y'all, I got up out of my seat and I said, you need to turn that off or you need to move. Me, I'm 29 years old, right? But when I saw these girls 16, 17, 15 years old, who's the adult in the room? Baby, I'm the adult in the room, and don't ever play like that. And I bring this up because I feel like my generation specifically, y'all don't know that y'all are the adult in the room, and that makes you dangerous to be around. I looked that grown man in his face and I said, turn it off or you need to get up and move. And he was looking and I'm like, turn it off or move. And so then he got up, because these are children. You are not about to harm these young girls and their mental and their psyche, or abuse them in some type of way while I'm around, because I'm a grown woman. That's on being a woman. Who's the adult in the room? Baby, I'm the adult in the room. So that's on stepping into womanhood. A lot of y'all, I fear that y'all will see these type of situations, especially if it involves teenagers, because when you're in your 20s and you encounter people in your teens, it can be an awkward situation of am I the big sister? Am I the adult? No, you are the adult. Act accordingly as such. And that is an extreme situation, where their parent wasn't around. And I saw that, and I'm just like, you're not about to take advantage of these kids and do some silly stuff just because you see the adult has left, because that is the community aspect. of being a woman. Nobody said that you had to be everybody's mama, but generally speaking, you have to assume that authority. And I say this to say too, a lot of y'all struggle. I'm not a dating coach, or I don't give out dating advice, but a lot of y'all struggle in y'all dating life is because though he's a little boy inside as well, the men that y'all are dealing with, they can recognize that you're not safe to be around. They can recognize that you don't stand for anything, and they hate you because you remind them of their mom or whoever they grew up with, the person that was supposed to protect them that didn't. I'm not playing when it comes to that type of stuff. So when I be telling women, well, I don't really have these type of issues or whatever the case is with men, with women, whatever the case is, it's because I'm an adult. So think about that the next time where you haven't defined your values, where you haven't stepped into your womanhood. Is it really always just, oh, men are this, men are that? We know men are this and men are that. I'm not that type of a woman. But what I'm saying is, when you are an adult, when you are a woman, that is presence, that is mother, that is a sense of safety. That's what I say is detrimental to society when you don't know who you are and you don't step into your womanhood. And like I always say, if not for anything, dressing up and showing up and being an example of a woman, the type of woman I choose to be embodied, I do it for the young girls. Those little girls who was on the boat, they looked at me, they said, thank you. And I said, y'all all right? They said, yeah. I said, all right now, because the girls, they need us. The true actual girls, they need us to step into women. We all gonna just be walking around looking crazy, looking at each other and being girls. That is such a spooky scenario to me. Like, that sounds very much crazy and creepy. So I don't care what nobody says if it's too much for you, because I already have the affirmation that I'm on the right path and doing what I'm supposed to do, because the young ladies are looking at me. They're thanking me. They're hoping that I show up like this. They're hoping that I have this mentality so I can pass it on to them the same way I had women to look up to when I was a little girl. I'm not going to rob them of the experience of having a woman that is an example to look up to. I am going to be the woman and give them that example. Same way I just walked into a coffee shop the other day. It was like 7:30 in the morning, and it was just like, okay, whatever, Monday in a coffee shop. It was a young girl. She was maybe like 19, 20 years old. She had her hair done, face all done and everything. And I had my hair together and my face was on, and it was early in the morning. She saw me and she perked up and she was like, oh, hi, and everything. And I'm like, hey, how are you? And I already knew what it was and what it was about, because everybody was around her looking plain. And we were the two 7:30 a.m. ladies who were all done up. And then the other lady took my order and she was like, what did she get? She's like, oh, I'll make it for her. So she made my drink and she's like, here you go. Thank you so much. Have a good day. But I knew what the vibes were. She was standing out in her environment, even though everybody else was doing one thing. It's 7:30 in the morning. We're not about to do all of that. I walk in, I'm doing all of that. She's doing all of that. That's how we affirm each other. That's how we show each other we got each other's back. And so everyone's not going to be that type of woman. But that's what I'm saying. I know the type of woman that I am and that I'm supposed to be. And I get those affirmations. And what it does for me is very tremendous. And I want the same for you. So define the type of woman that you want to be. There's tons of different little girls. We don't know what type of woman that they are. But when you show up as the woman that you're meant to be, you give them the opportunity to have something to aspire to look up to, so that they don't feel lost and disoriented in this life. So that is the importance of stepping into womanhood. That is how you can step into womanhood, by deciding and defining your values. I'll have everything linked down below if you want to check out the Adult Girl Diaries workbook ebook. It is a guided ebook that is centered around womanhood and stepping into it. So that resource will be linked down below. But let me know what y'all think about this topic. Is it something that you think about? Is it something that you've heard about? Is it something that makes you feel stressed and pressured? Or is it something that makes you feel relieved and that you're up for? I really would like to know. But as always, y'all, thank you so much for tuning into this video. Please go ahead and give me a like, leave me a comment down below, and subscribe to my channel. And if you like it, go ahead and hype it so this message can spread. I love y'all, and I will catch y'all in my next video. Bye.